to borrow only very carefully and to pay it back very quickly. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Dr. David Clark.
Mr. Chair. Well, I want to start, Mr. Chair, with a small correction. If indeed I heard Tracy Martin correctly from New Zealand First, a normally incredibly scrupulous and careful MP, say that both the Greens and Labour were moving away from the goal of collecting monies from students. I want to say that's not true. Certainly in our case, we are supporting the bill. Moving away from the goal of a free education for all, says Ms Martin, that I would also dispute. I do not think that is true. Labour certainly wishes to have a free education for all, and that is something that we intend to move toward over time as it is an affordable policy. So that is something we certainly will not rescind from. We have concerns about the bill, although we will be supporting it because we support the effort to collect these monies that are due to the taxpayer. When money is given in good faith to support an education, it is right that the government collects it back. So that is the principle that we start from. In my previous life, in one of my previous lives, I had the privilege of being the warden of Selwyn College in Dunedin, which I'm proud to say is regarded by many, and rightly so, as New Zealand's finest college. The member opposite may beg to differ, but I credit him certainly with having attended New Zealand's second finest, and that is saying something. So, Mr. Chair, in that role, I had the opportunity to see many students who were striving earnestly to study, to make the most of their opportunities. And I have to observe that since I was a student myself, times have become more difficult. It is a lot harder for students to pay their way through their studies. They now require either a generous benefactor, or they must work every hour and more of a 40-hour week through the summer holidays beforehand, as well as sometime during term time in order to pay their fees in an establishment that feeds them and provides accommodation. And that is not a good state of affairs because it can distract from the efforts of study. And many students are not reaching their potential in university now because they are forced to work to supplement their studies to a level that was not the case certainly when people of my generation were students. The student support scheme in those days was far more generous. Unfortunately, inflation has eaten that away. So, Mr. Chair, the point that I'm wanting to develop through my discussion, as you will hear, is about the sustainability of the scheme, which is a point that goes to the heart of this bill, part of the reason why we support it and part of the concerns we have with the bill. The preservation of the scheme was touched on also by Mr Goldsmith, who made some claims about it costing 50 cents in the dollar and patting his government counterparts on the back for drawing that cost in. Now, I want to point out to the House and to those watching at home that much of the so-called reduction in cost is in fact based upon accounting tricks. And the fact that monies are written off and then later re-included is a strange treatment in the student loan scheme that is not seen in other loan schemes. And so one must be very careful with the statistics that are used. They are used for convenience, in my observation, by the opposition when they want to make it sound a far more expensive scheme than it actually is, because they are not in favour of this scheme. We know that they introduced the loan scheme. Labour later followed up with an interest-free scheme because we believed in reducing the costs of education, moving towards that free education system that Ms Martin also spoke of, and so we took it a step in that direction. National, of course, subsequently have introduced interest again on that loan scheme, and that tells you the direction that they wish to take it, and certainly Mr Goldsmith is advocating for an understanding of the scheme that is far more expensive than the reality, and that probably also hints at where he would like to go with the scheme, if one didn't get that from his maiden speech in the Parliament. Mr Chair, one of the things that is challenging in this bill, and certainly for the government, is the fact that it contains a good deal of U-turns. It is a bill that pulls back from policy previously passed through this House. Mr done in the chair, maybe becoming more accustomed to U-turns as recent days would illustrate. However, Mr. Chair.
I'll hear the Minister at this stage. Honourable Peter Dunn.
Mr. Chairman, one of the themes that's come through, I think, from just about everyone that's spoken in the debate so far has been sustainability.